Okay, guys, welcome back to, can you believe it, episode 8 of the Health, Wealth, and Sex podcast. There's some really good feedback so far, some really good guests, some really good conversations, esoteric, self-actualization, all in the context of physique development, living your greatest life in a body you love, thriving and moving away from a mainstream bodybuilding narrative that is aligned with discomfort and misery and is ultimately unsustainable. So we're making physique development fun, sustainable, as healthy as possible. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about the common mistakes that we see when it comes to physique development. Yeah, just
Pitfalls maybe that people
those.
fall into.
Yeah, it's maybe some pitfalls, maybe some myth
Myths,
busting,
yeah.
something like that along those lines, where we establish ultimately what we feel is the correct line for bodybuilding for us, what's worked for us, why we are able to do this happy, healthy, sustainably, enjoyably, whilst also achieving our physique goals. And that's not to say that, you know, we know in order to achieve anything, as we've talked about, requires work, requires effort. There will be fatigue costs. These things can be managed over time, and time, being patient is probably the key factor here. So let's start off with that. Being fucking impatient.
Yep. Yeah, being impatient is again, it's just this idea that you're going to transform really, really quickly. I tend to find that when people clean up, get training and maybe clean up the dirt, there is quite a big initial recomp. But once you sort of hit that quick improvement to get good and noticeably better, that is where it's like one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And people will often get that. Let's say it's fat loss. People will get that 5 pound fat loss week one because they've cleaned up the diet, they're getting the steps in, they're now getting 3, 4, 5 days training.
Food and fluid, bro. Like,
Yeah, oh yeah,
when,
all fluid, all
when I
fluid.
get that, I'm like, that's brilliant. Now we're into losing fat.
Exactly. But the problem is with people who are just starting out, they go, right, so about 5 pounds a week coming off regularly, like don't don't be disappointed next week if we get a pound off. That's perfect. It's like that's it. That's your whoosh. That's your fluid off. That's all the crap weight off. And
I
now is
want to
the
lose a
proper fat
stone
loss.
in this 6 week diet. That
Yeah,
I think a good outcome will be half a stone, and then we'll break, and then we'll
yeah,
take another half a stone, and then we'll break, and we might
yeah,
be able to take another half a stone. We might need to consolidate, but we'll get there
yeah,
because I'm going to take the 3 stone off you, and then I'm going to build you back up again.
yeah.
But but what's a realistic time frame for you? I used to have in Vienna Turkish kids. There's lots of Turkish immigrant kids, Syrian asylum seekers, and so on. So it's this huge sort of, and they've got like the Arabs have got like a huge respect for bodybuilding and see me in the
Yes,
street.
yes.
And they're like, bro, they'd stop me and they're chatty and they speak good English generally. And they're like, how long you been training, man? And you're like, like 20 years. And like, oh,
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it's but
couple of
going back
weeks,
to what
man.
you were saying about, the other one is that we're going to have to take some form of a break. Let's say you have a fat loss phase, and I don't know because people are different, but let's say that lasts 8 weeks and then everything starts to, arbitrary, I know, grind to a bit of a halt. It's like, right, let's do 4 weeks now where I either put food gradually back in or we simply hit some sort of maintenance quite quickly. It's like, oh, but I can get more off. I can get more off. It's like, trust me, this is the time now to back off, set ourselves up for the next fat loss phase, and then go again. But there can be pushback there. And like you say, that base camp approach, we need to be patient and the understanding and that we'll get there in time. in time. You know, it will take time to get the weight off. It will take time to grow lean tissue. You know, this massing phase, and you know, massing phases. I want to put on 2 stone. It's like, well, I can put on 2 stone by next month. It won't be a good 2 stone. I can force feed fat. You know, it's not a problem.
Let's deploy Nova Rapid and Dominoes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Watch what happens.
But I mean, yeah, okay, but this is with under a coaching eye and looking at what for you, okay, you're dieting.
Mm.
All right, what for you are the main things that will indicate that it's time to pull back from a deficit? And I'm not saying we need to move into a surplus, because
No.
this aggressive deficit followed by aggressive massing phase followed by aggressive deficit, the net outcome year to year is zilch, but the year is spent in discomfort and misery, right? So what's the right line for you there in terms of like when are you seeing kickback? Like, what does that look like in a diet so that people can recognize? Because we're not going to. We're often just pushing on.
Yeah. Yeah. The kickback for me is, I think, when you are having to sort of man or woman up a lot to get through the day, when it's becoming pretty uncomfortable through large segments of the day, definitely between meals, when you start eating meals and they're not really registering anymore, like that hunger, that satiety sensation isn't kicking in, when you when you find yourself looking at pictures of food online instead of more exciting things you can look online, when you are like, I remember once before bed when years ago, looking at different flavors of Pop Tarts from America. I don't even like Pop Tarts, but I was like, Jesus, that looks incredible. And it's like, oh, these are the sort of the red flags where it's like, you need to get out of there. And this idea of, again, um, it it's somewhere we get in our heads that we equate starvation and suffering with progress. And what you'll actually see if you look at the data and look at your body composition is things have slowed down. You're sort of grinding at that point. You're becoming hungry all the time. Sleep's impaired. That's the big one for me. And so you might drop off to sleep quite easily, but you'll be waking up at 1 or 2 in the morning, hyper focused. And that for me is like caveman times, where it's like you need to get out and eat something because you're
Yeah,
going to die.
it's a weird cortisol spike in the middle of
Yeah,
the night,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, you wake up with your heart racing. Okay, so we've got like contraindications are accumulation and escalation of fatigue beyond your recovery capabilities.
Mm.
So you're just digging deeper into a hole. Okay. We're going to do that, by the way, while getting exotically lean. And that's why it's important to take a bit of a longer approach. For example, don't do what I'm doing, do what Alex is doing. Take a bit of a longer approach. I have my reasons. It's because my competitive season starts in June. So I just chose to be attritional this time of year, knowing that I bank a recovery period while staying very close to stage ready with a long time to finish getting stage ready. So it was like, yeah, okay. But taking that longer time frame, so being a bit more realistic, I'm not going to get shredded in 12 weeks. I'm going to get shredded in 24. And I'm gonna plan that out. So, when and initially, if you've not done that, auto-regulate it. So it's like, okay, I've noticed that hunger's high. Food focus, which you were describing as food video. I watch food videos all year round, but at the point when nothing else interests you except food videos, like when things don't hold your attention or interest, or you're unable to have a conversation about anything else, food focus is high, right? Hunger's probably high. You might be looking at food sources you don't normally look at. Maybe food hoarding, stockpiling and shit like that. Making weird orders with Cookie Dealer and stuff. So, okay, these are all just indications that you're dieting hard, right? But like you can push through that. Now, there'll probably be a cost to that at the end if you've not come out of it before as well, which will be probably aggressive collateral fattening because you'll eat your face off. So, okay, circumspect in terms of how quickly it's going to take you to get to a reasonable body composition. We're not talking bodybuilding competition. Lean isn't a place you want to live, right? That's low performance. Cognitively in the gym, like there's only decline from there by trying to stay there.
Yes.
All right. So it's like, okay, we're getting issues around food and hunger's high. Recovery is starting to become increasingly impaired, which means performance in the gym is tanking, which means that we're starting to move into the realms of muscle loss. Now, particularly for natural, that's absolutely happening. And there's sometimes a propensity to, in the higher drive workers, to then look at that and go, I need to do more. I'm going to cut food harder.
Yep.
And I'm going to do more cardio. And a better physiological response will be coming from pulling stress and fatigue, moving calories to maintenance for a week, which often results in a weight loss because stress will drop off. Maybe, oh, the scale weight's moved down and we're not married to the scale weight. And did you lose fat that week? Well, potentially you started moving more and creating more demand as the energy levels kicked up. And if you had another week at maintenance, those calories would be slightly higher still. Call that a little restorative phase and a break. Maintenance training volumes, which is really, minimal training. Just get in, like stimulate muscle group, have pumps that fuck off, pull all fatigue. Don't train legs. If you train legs hard, don't fucking train legs for a week. It ain't going to go nowhere. They need those recovery resources anyway. They get beaten up with the cardio, with everything else. And watch the spring in your step and the mood. And you'd be like, okay, I'm picking up. Now, you still might only be 1 day away from being back in that fatigue hole. So you don't do 2 days or 3 days. You wait like a full week until you're like, I really want to fucking get back in the gym.
You'll feel
really
that enthusiasm pick up. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like another metric, like enjoyment of training.
Yes.
I've enjoyed my training every session this prep, except for the end of this depletion. Wednesday, I had nothing in the tank. I think I told you.
I don't want to do this. Yeah.
I've been running my petrol tank low and just topping it up. Like I've been going on a tenner, run it down, putting the tenner in,
tenner in, yeah.
But this week I put in like a quid, and the gas tank ran out, like 10 minutes into the leg session. So it was a shitty session. I couldn't move any of my normal weights around. And actually, I completed that session and I got my feedback from Joe, my coach, that afternoon. And he was like, he'd had a look at me and he was like, right, we're pulling cardio. He didn't know I had this shit training session, but he was like, we need to pull cardio today. It's time to pull back fatigue. And I was like, that's the first bad session I've had.
Yes.
This is the first time I feel kaput in the entire prep, because this was fatigue, but performance was great. I have my little down periods, I have my sleep, everything. Sleep deteriorated the day before and the day before that. So there was this we were golden for 70 straight days. Yes. And then over a 48-hour period, that we had a small calorie adjustment down. We kept all the variables the same, but that was just, and I had my first hypo, as you know, which was I was at the work computer, that means your liver glycogen completely emptied. And I know the symptoms, and it's easily corrected. Eat a little bit of chicken, wait, wash the sweat off, I'm okay. But there were all these indications that we were running on fumes there, which is exactly probably where you need to get to get your leanest in prep. That stuff's going to start to happen. And then that's when the fatigue management really, really comes in. And when we're talking about not getting so extremely lean, it's more about when do the dietary adherences start to slip? When do the food pathologies arise? And when do other factors in your life start to feel overwhelming or decline? Because I'm really struggling with this amount, I'm struggling with this amount. Okay, well, you're compromised. Are you handling that? Are you in the best possible position to handle that? Is that something that you would have handled just fine 3-4 weeks ago? It's probably, is it that big a deal?
Mood is so, again, it's a funny one. It's easy to say, isn't it? Mood is such a key indicator when the wheels are coming off. So, but often we'll need loved ones or people's opinion who we can trust and respect to say, you're pushing it, dude, you just lost it on the postman, or you just
Well,
you're
those
getting
are
way too
observations
cross.
when you've gone a bit too far, right? Because
Yeah.
your self-awareness needs to be there. Like,
Yes.
you need to catch yourself early, because the last thing you want, your loved ones won't tell you that you're off until you're really off.
Yeah, you're gone.
And a good rule of thumb with all of this, guys, is just don't use trend,
Yeah.
right? Just don't use trend. And you'll be probably more level-headed and get from A to B with relatively no issues if you've got some degree of experience. Another thing I would recommend is not leaning into clenbuterol, or if you do, not too hard, because it's just driving sympathetic stress, but just also sympathetic tone. So again, we're into like short-termist decision making, a little bit more selfish, a little bit more like internally focused, and so on. So it's like leveraging your drivers of a calorie deficit, low impact steady state cardio, high quality resistance training sessions, and a diet based around quality protein and fiber dense foods. These are like, run with that as long as possible. And if we're going to support not losing muscle and even training performance, okay, we've got some anabolics that are appropriate for that. Growth hormone is appropriate. And there's so many tools there. There can be the temptation, I think, when you diet, to like get your toolkit out, be like, right, there's the 6 fat burners, and there's the trend. Better get on that.
Yeah.
Got to get trend
Fat loss phase, get the trend in. Yeah.
Trend will compromise your sleep, your digestion, your overall systemic stress. And one thing we know is that stress and inflammation do one thing to body composition: they make it shit.
Yeah.
Now, trend is muscle sparing. It's not building muscle. So how much muscle sparing do you need when you're on 300 grams of protein and some testosterone, good whack of masteron? Like, unless, honestly, even pushing for, I'm not using it this prep. It's been the best prep I've ever had. 10 weeks
Yeah.
to go from 265 to 230, now back up to like 234, 235. That's it. The calories haven't changed, but the impact of cosmetic orals. But that's for probably post-show breakdown. We'll do that in another episode, guys. I'll do a peak week kind of show review for you guys, give you like a really good picture of what's going on towards the end of a prep in terms of drug use versus what off-season and sustainable use looks like. So we're going to visit in other episodes sustainable use and TRT, as well as give you like the fucking, this is what goes on in pro bodybuilding in order to bring in, that look on larger males anyway, which will be cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I think no, I think you're right. I mean, stay away from things that when you're sympathetically driven and you're in that state that are going to exacerbate it.
Ronnie
I
Coleman
also
was relaxed as fuck, and that's a common theme in pro bodybuilders, I find.
yes, I agree
Very
with that.
fucking chilled.
Yeah.
Samson's chilled. Well, apart from last week.
Yeah, I was going to say up until recently.
Well, again, but Samson was chilled as fuck, and then Milos was on like a podcast, I don't know how many months ago, and they were like, you've done something with Samson lately. Like, he's like, first, he didn't ever want to use it. He said he never use it, but I got a bit of trend, and then I got him a bit more trend, and then then 300 trend. And now I hear him on Samson on podcast. He's talking about rage, irritability, like lots of things he hates about prep. And I wonder if they were there before.
Well, I was going to say it didn't appear to be, did it? And almost yeah, emotional and not aggressive per se, but yeah,
well,
it's
to
not
be
in a good
honest with
place.
you, like I've had that experience post show like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Electrozole got chucked in there because he was
Right.
flat, he was soft. I reckon probably what happened was very late carb up. Don't know why. Combined at the same day with diuretics, again, doesn't make sense. Probably combined with chucking in Electrozole to dry him out. So he was probably like hormonally just all over the
Screwed.
place,
Yeah.
tanked and rebound. What Letrozole does as well is you'll accumulate a flood. It's like a barrier, right? It's a suicide AI.
Yeah.
It's like a barrier. You'll have this like surge of estrogen when that clears. And I've had that, and that resulted in me weeping on a flight to a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I mean, it was a
Was it a
pivotal
good one?
moment. Man, when the montage, the fight montage at the end picks up, the music kicks in, he drops down to the splits and he uppercuts Tong Po in the nuts. And I'm
Brilliant
just
scene.
bursting into tears because the music, the sheer power of the
Yeah, of
nut
Van
and
Damme.
flexing his bicep. That was deeply
The whole
emotional for
thing.
me at that moment. And I was like, fucked it.
But it's a good scene, to be fair. I think most men break to that scene. But
So
yeah,
that's
it's funny, isn't it?
yeah, but that's another thing, right? So, okay, dieting mistakes. This is predominantly from not knowing when to pull back, not go the other way, but when to pull back, just like deloading. Deload when fatigue is high, move to maintenance calories when fatigue is high. And if there's more fat to lose, go again. So, and you'll learn your time frames over that.
Yes.
And as you get more muscular and you get more successful at dieting over time, your body gets used to walking around leaner, you will get a really good handle on how long it's going to take to bring you in to whatever composition you want.
I was
All
going to
right.
say, I'm again, not everyone will do this, but if you track your data, if you literally track your data, you can, and you have multiple bouts of fat loss, and then reversing or maintenance. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it happens consistently, but you'll notice trends in the data. Right, okay, I can get 5 pounds off. It takes me about 8 weeks. Then things stall. Then I reverse out. That holds my weight. Then I go again. And you can almost say, think to yourself, shit, I just need time. I've got a pretty decent system here.
Yeah. So
Forget optimality,
one
but
week,
it works.
yeah, let's say 1 week off in 6. So now you
Yeah,
got 14 weeks dieting, 21, 28 weeks of dieting, just over 6 months. All right. And you can trend down at an aggressive £2 a week, £1 a week, I'd recommend. All right. So out of that 28 weeks, you've spent 4 weeks at maintenance, washing off stress. So you've got 24 weeks, that's £24 on a very sustainable diet, £48 on an aggressive diet if you can handle it. All right. And then maybe a 4 week down period where you maintain lower training volumes, just restore yourself and build those maintenance calories back up so your training performance is in a good spot. Okay, cool. I think dieting boxed off. Training and gear mistakes. It's like don't take Tren, don't take Deca, don't take neurotoxic drugs, and you'll be happy clappy and run no issues. Monitor your health, okay, and don't bury your head in the sand. Take your blood work, take corrective action, normalize everything, optimize everything, and your diet will be and your gaining phases will be as linear as possible. Plus, you'll have that confidence that that gram of masteron that you're taking to, you know, achieve that next level is absolutely fine for you. Or it's not. You're not
Yeah. Well, you'll know one way or the other, won't you?
probably will be fine. So then training. Training's a really interesting one because we can dig a hole through training and we can have training. There's a lot of training, I want to say, philosophies out there, and it's important to call them that. Training philosophies. There's some hard and fast rules for hypertrophy, and they're very, very broad.
Mm.
And what you want to do really is find the training style that serves you and your body, doesn't beat you up, makes sustainable progress, and you enjoy your training sessions. Now, you might need more recovery than others. You might have better recovery capabilities. You might be younger and you can lift heavier. Yeah, I guarantee you, us old boys are lifting heavier than you for 20 fucking reps, what you're doing for your 3 rep max. But you can do this stuff when you're younger, okay? It shifts over time. Some movements become unavailable to you. You either max them out, or injuries or imbalances, or simply you don't need to train that body part with that degree anymore. So the number one training mistakes for me are you're married to a training philosophy that's putting you in a hole or causing you pain or affecting the rest of your life. It should be lifting you up, really. And the other one is probably simply that you do not give yourself adequate rest to recover and make the most out of that training stimulus. So if you throw a shit ton of volume at yourself, fine. It's going to be subpar in quality. Fine. You know, just allow yourself enough recovery for that. All right. If you want to go absolute failure and high volume and high frequency with little to no rest days, you'll probably get 4 weeks of progression out before you need to deload. That's not a bad, if you like that.
It works,
Bad. Over the course of a year, you make good progress because in those weeks of downtime, you'll get tremendous super compensation. To be honest with you, it's how I train. Pretty much hit every set to failure, relatively high volume, overreach in about 4 weeks, go on holiday for a week.
Yeah, you take about a week off, don't you?
Yeah, I like a long weekend.
Yeah.
I like to go to Spain for a long weekend, eat nicely, maybe train, maybe not, just to be active and chill.
Yeah.
So,
I tend to find that people either they struggle to find that midpoint. Again, first of all, to say find a style of training you enjoy that doesn't beat you up. I just think that's paramount because, like you say, even suboptimal training done over a long period of time will probably grow you pretty damn well. You know, if you optimize it, it will just grow you faster. The key is not to get injured and to train a way you enjoy. But I tend to find one of the biggest problems is people either fall into two camps. It's either the intensity camp, I'm Dorian Yates, or it's the volume camp, I'm Lee Priest. And for me, the answer always lay somewhere in the middle. My workouts weren't 3 hours long, and equally, I didn't have blood coming out of my nose during bicep curls. It was somewhere in the middle where it's like, look, I was training with enough tensity, enough volume to meet my needs
yeah,
and married with my recovery capabilities.
a single bodybuilding set isn't about generating such sympathetic drive as you would for a single rep max powerlifting. You can't repeat that over and over during a session. You do want to train within relatively close proximity to failure, if not to failure. Range of motion is usually a big opportunity in a lot of people. So they've been load chasing and their range of motion is actually quite limited. So the easiest analogy I can give is with a bicep curl. So if you fully stretch your bicep with an appropriate weight and curl, you'll get a good pump and you'll hit failure of 12 to 15 reps, and you'll do adequate volume and your biceps will grow. They won't grow if you load up the preach curl machine and you pump the top end of their
Yeah.
And
Half
and a
reps, yeah.
really good anecdotal observation is those ab crunch machines, right? Because they don't move your abs into a lengthened range at all. And people get that, they stack them, boom, boom,
Bang,
boom,
bang, bang,
boom,
yeah.
boom. And they're feeling it just as I would feel that, right? But it does fuck all for hypertrophy. So know what, know how to execute the movement to actually stimulate muscle growth. Know how hard you have to take that set to stimulate muscle growth. And then you need to provide adequate substrate, which is recovery and food. And this is probably the final thing to discuss in terms of limiting factors to progression. The biggest mistakes in bodybuilding really are lack of quality food consistently over time and lack of maximizing your recovery resources. Now, life might not allow you to have optimal, like top level athletes have tissue work, a nap, and 10 hours sleep a day. And they also train 6 hours a day. And they make performance improvements and they're enhanced. All of them. Trust me, I work with some of them. And this is outside of the field of physique development specifically. So these are like things where you need to sense check yourself. Like this guy's doing this like 30 set chest workout. All right. And he does that once a week. And he eats, sleeps, and recovered. The guy might be on 7,000 calories a day, 12 hours of restorative time, tissue work, going again. And he'll still need his rest week somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks into a training block. I mean, how many people that will be listening to this? I'll challenge them all. When was the last time you had a week off? Like a week off training. And what drives that is fear of loss of gains. And ironically, you will not make any fucking progress if you don't take downtime.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I can't tell you the last week I had off training, and I think I recognize that that's not good. But the irony is, I'm quite habit forming, and because I'm quite habit forming, it's made me quite good at physique development. Like kind of I eat a certain way, I train a certain. I'm very routine. I'm like a robot. So the very thing that sort of makes you good also can eventually, impair you because you need to stop this week, Alex, and have some downtime to actually change your routine temporarily, and then we can get back on it. So that can be a hard pushback, even in myself.
Yeah, and the paradigm shifts with time, guys. So how much volume you need, how much load you work with, will increase over time. Therefore, your recovery capabilities also need to increase to kind of like maintain that progression. But what will also happen is that you'll overreach quicker. All right, as you get stronger, so if your work, it's just CNS fatigue as much as anything, as wear and tear on the joints and so. But at the end of the day, you might need a 30 set a week back, 30 to 40 sets to grow your back, and your recovery capabilities will be compromised if you tried to do that across every session, every body part. So we move into this sphere where in order to create a balanced physique, if stuff's lagging, which it will be, because generally we start off with all volumes are pretty equal. We sort of match up hamstring and quad volume. We match up back and chest volume. We match up bicep, tricep volume. Delts, calves, and abs, let's just call that infinitely recoverable. Like you couldn't probably motivate yourself to train with enough volume for those body parts for them to reach a maximum recoverable volume. So let's just leave it at chest, back, quads, hamstrings, glutes, maybe. And again, glutes pretty recoverable. So if you are more advanced and you're trying to prioritize a body part, think about that you've got a cup of recovery resources that you can take from. And what goes into that cup is your restorative time and your food, your capability to eat. right? Which, when bearing in mind significant amounts of food are also stress on the system. So we've got stuff going into the cup, stuff coming out the cup, work, children, how much you can sleep, that are your recovery resources are like individual to you. And so when you overreach will be individual to you. And you can marry your training style, how often you train, to make those training blocks longer. Or you can run with shorter ones, because if you train hard enough, super compensation works an absolute treat. Planned overreach works an absolute treat. But for most people who live a normal life, you're going to want to probably establish that you can do X amount of sets per week total and recover and progress. And I want to grow my back now. I can't add to that total volume to grow my back. I need to remove volume from other body parts and allocate that volume to back. And all that will happen is that those body parts will either grow at a slower rate or you'll maintain them. So if you've got a really fucking good body part, hit it once a week with 6 to 8 sets while you hit your back. I'm using this just as an example, for say 12 hard sets, 15 set hard sets twice a week. You can play with these kind of paradigms, but as you get more advanced, your ability to train a body part frequently reduces, and your ability to simply throw volume at your progression reduces. Because like Arnold was like, I get more out of one set than most people will get out of their entire gym workout. All right. He was like, that's because my mind is in the muscle. And yeah, it's also because you're barbell curling, you know, like 100 pounds for 5 sets of 20. You know,
Yeah,
that was the stimulus he's needing at that point. So yeah, I mean, we can look at pro bodybuilder workouts and we can try and copy them.
I think you said before you need to something along the lines of you need to earn that bro split. You don't, people can start wherever they like, but you don't necessarily start there. But over time, it evolves to look more like that professional bodybuilder split as you become more advanced.
It's a pro split, but I think there's a caveat in there that you absolutely never need a shoulder day.
Yes.
I don't think it serves a purpose. It's probably more an upper chest and delt day anyway. Understanding what body parts need more attention than others and not like overkilling your recovery resources, doing loads of silly shit is a good idea.
Well, the other thing,
why are we doing hard cardio when it compromises recovery?
And provides no stimulus? Agreed. You just dig in the ditch.
All right. Do sufficient cardio to maintain good cardiovascular fitness, and that's low impact, steady state. It's plenty beneficial.
Find a lot of
if you've got a fitness
messing around as well,
pull back into like a health phase, pull back on your weight training, bring your cardio up, and then maintain it. Absolutely. But that's just from sitting on your ass, going to your training sessions, and then eating all day long. It's just about lack of movement, really. It was a good summit on diabetes and obesity, and it was a huge summit actually, and all the experts got together for a weekend, and they came out of it, and it was like the way to not be obese and diabetic is not be fat and chronic exercise. And chronic exercise shouldn't be misread. That just means perpetual motion. And that's what bodybuilders do so well, is they reserve all of their glycogen, all of their glucose intensive activity for the weights. And the rest of the time, they're using sort of fat oxidation. And that's also why when you get very lean, you slow down so significantly, because, you don't have a lot of glucose availability anyway. And so you don't have a lot of fat availability. So, it's, you will move more slowly. It's one of your down regulations. So yeah, not managing recovery resources, not finding a training style that fits your lifestyle, being married to a training philosophy that actually is counter to that, yeah, that'll kill your gains.
Mm. I think as well, the often as humans we try to almost fall into a camp, like fall into a set of dogma, like a dieting religion or a training religion, because it's I think it's easier to have somebody who knows all and can tell you exactly how to do things. It removes the onus on thinking for ourselves.
Yeah, I
And I
mean
think people like that.
tribalism.
Yeah,
Tri-
tribalism. Yeah,
tribalism is there's value in it. To be fair, we need a tribe, but understanding the tribe that your body and your circumstances needs to belong to, and also really looking at that tribe that you're ascribing to and whether they're thriving. All right, because we've talked about this, and a whole foods diet serves you. It doesn't need to be removal of X, Y,
food
and Z
groups.
foods to
Yeah,
thrive if they agree with you. Keto, yeah, it might work for you for dietary adherence purposes. It won't work for glucose intensive activity performance, which might be necessary. If you're just walking around, if you work in an office and you just walk, I think keto's great. It's protein sparing. Would recommend some resistance training. You probably don't need to do it hard enough to, really require significant glucose. But you know, it's that spectrum of extremes. No one's going to thrive on heavy duty training alone. There can be aspects of heavy duty training built into your workouts, but there's also so many other tools that you should be using. No one's going to thrive on a vegan diet. It might be better than when they're on a bullshit junk food diet. They're not thriving, but they might do well on lots of fruits and vegetables. Just be prepared to add in, unless for fucking ethical or moral reasons, adding in animal products, you will thrive. Um, you might thrive on lower vegetable consumption. You might thrive on higher fats and lower carbs, but I don't think anybody will thrive on the removal of any single macronutrient. It's just about like what ratios work best for you. How much protein can your body digest and tolerate? How much fruits and vegetables really need to go in for you to be micronutriented and fibered out. you know
yeah.
Digestion's a good key to monitor that. Energy levels, like, yeah, if you feel like shit, then re-evaluate, and it can be subtle changes. So I'm on a very low fat diet, my cholesterol shit,
I
add
think
fats.
yeah. But living at either end of the extreme rarely yields good results. And you've talked before about the fact that we're all on a sliding scale somewhere. You're either, you know, what you may be towards the vegan side more, but with animal products in. You may be near the carnivore side more, but with still some vegetable matter in there. But sitting heavily and dogmatically at either end of the extreme, it's just an ideology. Then it's not. There's no. You're not. My view is you're probably ignoring some pretty critical biofeedback at that point, because your body will tell you you're missing out on something.
Yeah, like there are some genetic outliers. You're just probably not one of them.
No,
So don't
that's right.
start off with a strategy that puts you on an extreme end of a spectrum. Put yourself in the middle of the spectrum, whole
Yes.
foods diet, train with a decent amount of volume, decent amount of intensity, reasonable amount of rest, and see how far you get. You can tweak and refine from there. That's called getting to know your body. It takes decades.
Yes. But don't like you say, don't immediately jump to an extreme. And what interestingly, what I tend to find is that often what you'll have vegans who suddenly become carnivores, and then carnivores who become and it's like kind of you're just hopping from one extreme to the other. I would have thought
Why are extremes so appealing? It's this quick fix, no?
it's it's a quick fix. I think it's because it's simple, because it's all of a sudden it's remove all this and eat this, and your head goes, right, so I there's no nuance to it. There's rarely nuance to it. And so from that point of view, it's very easy for it's a bit like high intensity training, Mike Mentor's HIIT training. One set, very hard, got you. Like, don't give me nuance. I don't want to know, like, whoa. I don't want you, I want simplicity.
Or do it for a block,
Yeah.
right? And then do a more volume focused block, Um, one of the things that I'll lead to this. So as I approach my peak week, today's my last day on my normal like menu. And I've eaten that menu for like 73 days straight. And it served me really well. I like it. But I'm really excited for my fat loading. This is not because I'm craving fats. It's because for 3 days, I've got a novel menu, right? And that appeal, if you're following the same pattern day in, day out without sufficient variety within it, other strategies will become more appealing because it's a fatigue issue. It's like I told you as well, prepping like this with this shorter timeline, it's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Cardio to training, cardio to posing, training, cardio on repeat. And I can do it because I know it's finite. But like I don't want to do that past like well, let's say after about 6 weeks, I'm like, oh, this is getting boring now. And I need to do it for another 4 weeks for the outcome I want. Okay, that's fine. But like I'm looking forward to my downtime from that. I'm like, I don't really want to train for a week. And I also don't want to eat bodybuilding meals for a week. That doesn't want to mean I eat bullshit, but I want to have a ham and cheese sandwich for a meal, and just chill a little bit on that pattern, which I know serves me. It's not going anywhere. I'll reintroduce it after 1 week. I'm not going to be going off piste and swapping out all my evening meals for like all the fucking junk food and ice cream or anything like that. Like, because I don't want to like make myself sick. Yeah.
Yeah, blade digesting out. Yeah.
Yeah. But novelty is appealing when you've engaged in monotony. And I think that as bodybuilders, we lean into monotony. So, hey, this works. And it worked again this week. And it worked again this week. And it worked again this week. But then that kind of lack of variety feeds in, which is why I think it's important to be able to eat out once or twice a week to mix up, even if it's just home cooked meals, like, or even if it's just that your Monday to Friday pattern serves you and your weekend pattern's a little different. Breaking up monotony while still keeping to your principles will prevent that psychology of I need to flip in completely the opposite direction. So I'm sick of it. We go over train client that's trained 30 days in a row. I don't want to train anymore.
Yeah.
Client that's eaten the same exact fucking prescribed meal plan every day for 30 days will be like, I needed a break.
Yeah.
I ate off plan. And the main thing is like if you can structure that and build that into your pattern, like you're winning.
That's why it's important to have principles over prescriptions. If you are following a prescription, you'll crack eventually. But if you have broader principles to follow, you realize there's wiggle room in there, there's variety in there. So I like to have training principles. I might prescribe a training program to a client or a friend, but I'll say these are the principles that are underpinning why this looks the way it does. And it's like, for example, if somebody said to me, can you show me what a sample diet be? I'd be like, sure. But these are the guiding principles why the diet looks the way it does. So, yes, here's a good example of a training program or a diet, but these are the principles that drive it. So, focus less on the outcome and more on the drivers. And from there, you realize there's actually flexibility and that there's new there's ability to sort of live your life and be more flexible with it all.
Can you give me a meal plan and a training program? Yes. Is it going to work? Yes. For a finite period of time, because it's too prescriptive, which is why we don't prefer this method, even though it gets short-term results, and there's no exit strategy. So being able to kind of build and refine and build out patterns over time, and toggle those patterns, and understanding like a bigger timeline overall. So I'm in this phase, and then I'm going to be moving into this phase, and rather than rinse and repeat every single day exactly the same. That's that kind of fatigue issue. So I think, broadly speaking, the mistakes that we're coming across in bodybuilding is rigidity, when we need variety, albeit not that much. Being married to extreme training principles when they're actually much broader, and not understanding that your lifestyle, which is unique and individual to you, means that your training and your nutrition, they need to be reflected in that. Like, you have a different setup to me.
Yeah.
So we'll have different setups. I'll be able to do things one way and succeed. That method might not work for you. So for me to say to you, like, oh, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
Do it this way.
But it's a bit like diet's a
Might
funny one, isn't
work.
it? Yeah. But that's the same, it's a bit like somebody says, will you write me a diet? So I'm writing a diet from the perspective of foods I enjoy, and I give it to you. And you're like, dude, I hate half the stuff on here. And it's like, yeah, that's why I don't write diets, because let me show you the principles, and you can pick the foods you then like yourself, because I might like eating certain foods and you might hate it.
Someone says, can you give me a meal? Like, they want it for free or something like that. Can you give me a meal plan that'll get me shredded? It's like, yeah, 3 times a day fish and vegetables, 3 protein shakes a day.
Yeah.
Go in the gym and train with some weights.
Yeah. That'll get you shredded. Yeah.
It
You'll
will.
hate your life, but it'll get you shredded.
It will. It will. It will. Cool, man. I mean, I think that's pretty comprehensive,
Yeah, succinct. Yeah.
as esoteric as usual, but we do not lean into sort of prescriptive narratives, with bodybuilding, because we're all unique, we're all individual. Look at yourself, guys, as a unique individual. Look at your lifestyle and think about what's going to actually elicit progress in the long term. And it's a volume dial. All right. If that volume dial is turned down low, and you're not making results, turn it up a little bit higher. Eat a little cleaner. Train a little bit harder. Rest a little bit more. When those results start to stall, structure your food a little bit better. Track your food. Program your training. Manage your recovery resources until you get to an elite level where your day is largely built around your training performance. And that's called being a full-time athlete. And that doesn't leave a lot of room in your life for other things. And that's an important distinction. And that's a choice that you make. And if you've got things in your life that you value, that are in conflict with that kind of a lifestyle, then that's where we talk about sacrifices in bodybuilding. And that's to get extreme physique outcomes. And that's a particular and peculiar lifestyle that some people choose. But if you're chasing the physiques of the people that live that particular and peculiar lifestyle, and you've got other things that are important to you, like people you love, a career, your mental health, which I still think should be protected regardless, then yeah, you're just not serving yourself. So sometimes it's good to just kind of go back to the drawing board and have a little rethink. And guys, if you are in a monotonous pattern and you feel yourself going, I really feel like I should try this new strategy, just sit down and write a new training program, sit down and write a new fucking menu, and start it on Monday. You know, that'll give you the enthusiasm and
Freshen it up
vigor.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. We do not need to go binary 0 to 100, 0 to 1.
Exactly.
You know, we just need to sit in our lane and just adjust the volume dial up or down, depending largely on life circumstances for the majority of the listeners. Or
Yeah,
in my case,
exactly.
whether
The,
it's a
the, the,
competition year, proximity to a competition, etc.
yeah, the refrain from the need to lurch to extremes is very much a thing we all do. But the idea of incremental volume adjustments and then see the out, you put in an input, what's the output? Did it glean the results you wanted? And then go from there. It's all data, and you can plug that data in and make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah. One little adjustment at a time.
Yes, that's the other thing is where people change multiple things across the board.
Complete
One adjustment,
overhaul
yeah.
gives you no information.
Yes.
You want to sleep better, adjust one thing for your sleep, see what it does. You want to perform better in the gym, adjust one aspect of your diet or recovery, see what it does, and build from there. We don't ever break a pattern, completely overhaul it, and like start from it. It just doesn't succeed. So, guys, next week, because I think it'll be a slight delay because I will be competing on Saturday. Next week, we're going to unpack peak week, prep, what's gone on, what the outcome was, etc. Should be super interesting episode. So do like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications, so you don't miss out on the episodes. I think that'll be a really interesting one.
Yeah.
It is very much into the bodybuilding realm, but we can also talk about how that has impacted on other areas of my life and the cost and the input and actually what it took to get in shape in 10 weeks or so. So I think it'll be useful for everybody, and
That'll be interesting for sure.
I'm looking forward to sharing it. So Alex, have you got anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I'm all good. I'm hungry. I'm ready to eat before I fall over. Other than that, that's all I've got to add.
Good for you, man.
I know.
Probably the same for me. Try and get some food in, and probably not overdo the vegetables.
Don't go crazy with the veg.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. This was episode 8 of the Health, Wealth, and Sex podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate your comments. Do like, do subscribe, do share with your friends, and open conversations with us. Have a dialogue, chat with us on Instagram. We're always here for you guys, always here to answer questions, and we really love interacting with our audience. So, guys, until next week, we'll speak soon.